caught my wife's dirty secret with a 17-year-old soccer star, so I called the cops, filed for divorce, and left her stunned. All right, I never thought I'd be in this situation, but I'm completely at a loss here, and I need some advice. My wife, 33, female, has been acting really strange lately, and I'm starting to think she might be cheating on me with one of the kids she coaches. I feel sick even typing that. Some background. My wife is an accountant by day, and in the evenings, she volunteers as a soccer coach for a local youth team. She's always loved soccer, and I thought it was great that she was so involved with the kids and the community. But recently, she's been dropping weird comments that are starting to really concern me. It all started about 2 months ago when she casually mentioned one of the boys on her team. He's 17, and I won't say his name for obvious reasons. At first, it was harmless stuff, like he's really talented for his age or he's a natural leader on the field. I didn't think much of it because, well, she's a coach, and it's her job to encourage the kids, right? But then the comments started to get weird. Like one night, out of nowhere, she said, "You know, kid's name has really pretty eyes. They're so striking." I remember thinking, oh, that's an odd thing to say about a kid you're coaching. I kind of brushed it off at first, but then more things followed. Another time, she came home after practice and said, "He's so much more athletic than anyone else on the team. It's impressive how developed he is." Again, I tried to shake it off, but my gut started nagging at me. Why is she talking about him so much? Then there's the fact that she's been getting way more secretive. She's always been open with her phone and emails, but lately, she's been turning her screen away from me when she texts or checks messages. I asked her about it, and she just laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid. She's also been staying later and later after practices. At first, she told me it was just because they were prepping for some tournament, but now, even with the tournament over, she's still coming home late. When I ask, she gives vague excuses like, "Oh, the team needed extra help," or "I had some paperwork to catch up on." Here's the thing that really has me spiraling. Last week, I came home early from work. I expected to have the house to myself since she was supposed to be at practice, but when I walked in, I found her sitting on the couch, texting someone with a huge smile on her face. When she saw me, she quickly locked her phone and got super flustered. She said it was just one of the parents asking about game schedules, but it didn't feel right. I don't have any solid proof, but something just feels off. Why would she be talking about this kid's looks? Why is she suddenly so secretive? I haven't been able to shake the feeling that something more is going on. I don't want to accuse her of something so serious without any real evidence, but I also don't want to ignore my instincts. I love her, and I really don't want to believe she'd do something like this, especially with a kid she's supposed to be mentoring. So, what should I do? Am I reading too much into this? Is she cheating on me with this 17-year-old? Or am I just being paranoid? How do I even begin to confront her about something like this? Any advice would be appreciated. I'm honestly feeling lost right now. Update. Hi everyone. First off, I want to thank all of you for the overwhelming amount of comments, advice, and support on my original post. I really needed some sense knocked into me, and I genuinely appreciate the community's input. It has meant a lot during this confusing time. After reading your comments, I took some of your advice and contacted my lawyer on the evening of my original post. I'll go into more details about that shortly, but before diving into the updates, I'd like to clarify why this post is coming out now and in this format. Unfortunately, after posting my original post, it was taken down and I received a 3-day ban from the subreddit. Thankfully, the post was later restored, but I had to wait until the ban lifted to share updates. I did keep track of each development and wrote them out as they happened, so I'll be sharing them in chronological order, just as I intended from the start. I am posting the updates on a new post because there is so much to say, and I think creating a new post is best for organizing all of the updates in a clear manner. In the update post, I will include a link to the original post for those who may not have seen it. Update. For those of you who didn't see my original post, here's a brief summary. In my previous post, I shared some difficult suspicions about my wife, who recently became increasingly close to a 17-year-old boy she coaches. She started making strange comments about his looks, athletic abilities, and personal qualities that went beyond her usual enthusiasm for coaching. Meanwhile, She's become much more secretive with her phone and often leaves home from practice without clear explanations. These changes have left me wondering if there's something more happening between them, but I don't have solid proof and don't want to jump to conclusions without evidence. Late update. First off, I want to thank everyone for the comments, advice, and support on my original post. Unfortunately, my original post was initially taken down, and I received a 3-day temporary ban. Thankfully, the post was eventually restored after my ban ended. Since I wasn't able to share updates during that time, I've decided to create a new post with all the updates so far, structured chronologically to keep everything organized. Sorry to keep everyone waiting. This is why I'm only updating now. The last 5 days have also been a whirlwind. Post update 1. I took some of your advice and reached out to a lawyer, well, sort of an old friend from high school who's now a successful family lawyer who happens to be visiting his family here this week. While family law isn't exactly what I need, I'd rather speak to someone I trust before hiring a lawyer and potentially escalating things out of control. I'm meeting him for coffee tomorrow, and will update you afterward. I'm hoping he can give me some solid legal advice without things getting too intense. I obviously don't want her to be arrested or anything drastic like that, but I also don't know what to do next. Right now, I'm not even angry, just overwhelmed and in shock. It's hard to process that someone I've been so close to over the last 2 years might not be who I thought, and could have been hiding something awful this whole time. Update 2. The last 5 days have been absolute hell. The title is a bit of a giveaway, but pretty much everyone who commented was right, and my own suspicions have been confirmed after talking to my friend, the lawyer. We agreed that I should confront her with my concerns, suggesting looking through her phone together just to put some of my suspicions to rest. I realize how risky this was, but we really didn't have a lot of choice considering there was no clear proof that anything weird had been going on. He suggested that we meet somewhere quiet but still in a public setting, in case she decided to freak out and do something irrational. I decided to take her to our local park, where I sat her down on a park bench well away from the crowds of people. When we sat down together, I told her how serious of a situation we could be in, and that she must be completely honest with me. I wanted to be on her side, but the way she had been acting had led to some serious suspicions. I explained to her that I didn't want to break the trust between us, so I had decided against looking through her phone despite how tempted I was. When I told her my concerns, she immediately got defensive and started denying everything. She called me a paranoid idiot for even suggesting that she would be in a relationship with a minor. She said the fact that I would even question something like this means there's probably something wrong with me and that I must be the one hiding something. Honestly, the way she reacted just confirmed to me that there was something she hadn't been telling me this entire time, and that without her cooperation, the safest bet was probably just to leave. I suggested that we look through her phone together, just to provide me with closure. Even if there was nothing to hide, it would mean a lot to me that she would humor me, and that it might even be fun to look through it together and laugh at how ridiculous I was being. She screamed at me for trying to invade her privacy, and then I had massively overstepped the line before storming away from me back to the car and driving to her friend's house to stay for the night. I don't know what she talked about with her friend, but at around 3 a.m. the next morning, I got a really long text from her giving her view of the situation. The message was as follows. The entire message was considerably long, so I've summarized it for this post. My wife, I really don't think what I've been doing is wrong. It started with me just helping this kid with some extra practice because he was struggling to get the hang of some of the drills we had been working on in that day's training session. These private sessions were becoming more regular, and after about 3 weeks of extra training sessions, he sent me a friend request to my Instagram. He wasn't the first one from the team to send me a request, and I wouldn't usually accept them, but as I was giving this kid private coaching sessions, I thought it made more sense. He started to send me DMs, so I responded because I'm not a total idiot. Okay, maybe the texts aren't just about soccer anymore, but there's nothing wrong with being friends with a kid you've always been super close to, like your younger brother, and I've never called you out for being weird. The message then proceeded to say how much of an idiot I was for trying to call her out and trapping her in a situation that would always leave her looking bad. She ended the message by telling me that she thinks that she'll be able to look past this and forgive me for being a total insecurity head, and that if I ever questioned her like this again, she would be filing for a divorce. I was in complete shock when I read this response, as I have never seen this side to my wife. This is not the kind, loving, respectful, and open person whom I had married, and it is driving me totally insane. I just don't know what to do. I understand that what she was telling me is not normal, and I can't believe how naive I have been for so long. But I still feel like there's even more going on that she's not telling me. Her long message didn't actually explain why she had been messaging this kid so much and for so long, or why she had been spending literal hours every evening locked in our bedroom or on the sofa, just on her phone. I don't know. Maybe I am just being paranoid. Maybe this is more normal than I'm making it out to be, although this seems unlikely. Should I still try to look through her phone anyway, despite what she's told me? When we had met the previous day, my friend mentioned that this was out of his field, but that I shouldn't contact the police until I was more sure of anything. Because if we did end up getting a divorce, and she is technically innocent, calling the police on your wife for providing extra help to a kid she coaches wouldn't look very good for me in a courtroom. Again, I apologize to everyone for the late update, and I know this post is kind of all over the place. But I hope you have been able to follow. This post was temporarily removed, but has now been reinstated. I appreciate all the support and advice so far, and I'll be responding to comments to answer questions and clear up any confusion. I will be giving another update on the development of the situation. Thank you for your patience. Relevant comments say nothing, reach out to the kid's parents and have them get his phone. If there is shoddiness going on, they'll be calling the police, then your hands are clean of it. If it happens and there is enough to call the police, get a lawyer. The police have been contacted, but as of now, there aren't any legal grounds to pursue anything. I'll provide more details in the next update, but I want to approach this carefully without completely destroying her trust. I haven't gone through her phone, but I did reach out to our shared network provider. After explaining the situation, I was able to get some limited information on her recent contacts. One challenge is that I actually don't know who the kid is. I've never met anyone on the team she coaches, and I don't remember any specific names she's mentioned before. Without knowing more, it's tough to involve his parents directly, though I'm definitely trying to make sure I'm doing everything right. Thank you for the advice and concern. It really helps to hear different perspectives. Thank you for the advice. To be completely honest, I worry that somehow this will come around to bite me. If I get the parents of the child involved, I realize this sounds crazy, and I should probably tell them immediately. But I don't want to be blamed for something I am not at all involved in. At this point, I am just trying to sort some stuff out before filing for a divorce. My plan is to tell my parents of the child as soon as the divorce is final. I also have no way of contacting his parents as of now, as I have no idea who the kid actually is. I have only seen his name on Instagram, but have never met him personally. I will be updating soon with the most recent developments to the situation. She is really trying to squirm her way out of this. I remember your post from before, and I have to say, your wife knows she's in the wrong. If she had nothing to hide, she would be showing you the messages to prove her innocence. Putting myself in her shoes, she knows she's caught but has enough deniability to make it seem like you're the one with the issue. If she were smart, she'd already be distancing herself and blocking the kid, so I wouldn't expect their relationship to continue. However, she's already broken your trust, the pinnacle of your relationship. You have a few options. 1. Forgive your wife and learn to retrust her. I couldn't do this myself. Probably self-destructive. 2. Start the divorce proceedings and hire a real lawyer. This is self-protective, my choice. 3. Protect this kid. We don't know how far this has gone, but he's a kid. Find his parents and tell them you're not sure what's going on between the two of them, but you fear it may be inappropriate. This is high risk and possibly vindictive, but also looking out for this kid your wife groomed. I think after everything that has occurred, I don't see any way of forgiving her. Unfortunately, she has deceived me, and I am grieving the loss of the person who I thought I knew so well and have loved for so long. The relationship is over. Lawyers are involved at this point. There are no legal grounds for the police to act on anything. She is even still allowed to coach for the time being. I just wish I could go back in time and undo everything from the moment I met her, because this all just feels like way too much to cope with at the moment. Everything I thought I knew in my life is falling apart, and I'm a huge mess at the moment. Through contacting our shared service provider, It's been revealed that there is even more that she's been hiding from me. I will give more details in my next update. Story 2. My daughter, Casey, a 17-year-old female, worked and saved up money for around a year to be able to afford a better car than we could buy her with our family budget. My other daughter, Elena, a 16-year-old female with ADHD, recently got her driver's license and asked to drive Casey's car. Casey allowed it, but Elena ended up having a bad accident around 6 months ago, which basically rendered the car unusable. The insurance payout wasn't nearly enough to cover the replacement, and with AL's medical bills from the accident, thankfully there was no permanent damage, just a broken arm and leg. There was no way we could afford to replace Casey's car immediately. Elena was very apologetic to Casey, and so were we, since we couldn't afford to replace her car. Casey didn't accept our apology and has been basically avoiding us, skipping family dinners and pretty much pretending that her mom, Elena, and I don't exist. She only talks to us if she needs a form signed for her school. I begged her to come to a family therapy session, and she eventually relented, but with the condition that Elena wouldn't be present in the therapy session. She told us that she won't be resuming a relationship with us until we replace her car, which realistically won't be until next year. When the therapist asked how she expected us to do that, Casey said, "We could just make Alanta work to earn the money." The issue is that Alanta has severe ADHD and already has trouble managing her schoolwork. We're worried that making her work to earn the money will harm her grades and have significant ramifications for her future. Casey said, "Well, she should have thought about that before destroying my car. I don't care. I'm not going to speak to any of you unless I have my car replaced." I responded that she was free to avoid speaking to me for as long as she wanted to, but I'm not going to permanently harm her sister's future to get her a car earlier. My wife agrees with me that we need to stand firm on our position, but is also genuinely afraid of Casey never speaking to her ever again. Understand that her car was ruined, but I, as a parent, need to look out for all my children, not just one. I also don't want to set the precedent that emotional blackmail will work, even if what you're asking for is unreasonable. Am I the idiot? Relevant comments, anyone? Wondering how much convincing it took for Casey to let Elena drive her car? No convincing at all. We weren't even involved in the convo between them. I'm with Casey on this one. You're coddling your youngest, and you have no idea if having a job could actually help your youngest learn to manage her time. You've left your oldest hanging. Edit to add, if Alanta can get her driver's license, she can get a job. Yes, the idiot you're essaying all over Casey to protect Elena from the consequences of her actions. If her condition is that bad, why was she allowed to drive in the first place? Wife's posts, I'm 39, female, and my husband is 43, male. We have 2 daughters, 16, who will call Elena, and 17, who will call Casey. Casey has held down a steady job for over a year now, and was able to get herself a car. Now, she got this car right as Elena passed her own driver's test, so there was a little issue between who was going to be driving. After a little persuasion, Casey did allow Elena to use her car, so long as somebody else paid for gas. We told her that wasn't going to cut it. Elena doesn't have the money for that, and it's her car, her responsibility to keep gas in it and keep it on the road. Here's where it gets difficult to Elle wrecked about a month ago. Luckily, she was fine aside from a broken wrist and a mild concussion. But Casey was fuming the entire time and seemed to have this expectation that we would be replacing her car. Her and my husband got into it, and she threw her arms up like a child and just stopped speaking to us. We coaxed her into going to family therapy with us, though it wasn't productive, as she and the therapist agreed that it would be best to maintain the reduced contact until she's paid back. Here's the problem. That car was $115,000. She saved up every penny for a year for that car. She'd ask us about twice a week if we changed our mind, and obviously, the answer was no. But that was the only thing she'd say to us. It didn't seem to bother my husband, and he kept saying, "She'll get over it." Until last week, she packed some things and had my mother come and get her. She's been staying at her grandmother's for a little over a week now, and she gave me a good earful. Whatever case he told her worked because earlier today my husband and I were informed we had 30 days to replace the car in full, or she was taking us to court. I think my husband is admirable for wanting to stand his ground, But the way I'm looking at it, we have two options. And I am sick of my daughter not talking to me because of crap that is not my fault. Elena has been a wreck. She's already battling severe ADHD, and now she's shaking at the thought of having to appear in court. So I sat them both down and said we have two options. We can suck it up, pay $115,000, and have our daughter and sister back, and Elena will just have to buck up and work. Or we can let my dad sue my husband and I on Casey's behalf and almost certainly lose. We spoke to 4 different firms, and all 4 echoed similar sentiment that it would probably cost us close to triple in the end to bring it to court and fight it there. So that's when I told my husband that I am not going $30,000 further into debt for him to hold the pettiest grudge. He's saying that I'm being manipulative by holding this whole situation over his and Elena's heads. I'm not saying it's not part of my fault. All I said was that no matter what, at the end of the day, we owe Casey, and he needs to just accept that we can afford $15,000 to replace the car. But if we have to dish out double that just to lose in court anyway, I'm divorcing him before he makes the mistake. In either case, I'm done not supporting both of my daughters. We've tried reasoning with Casey, and it has resulted in nothing. We lost this one. Am I the idiot for trying to get my husband to accept it? I feel I may be, just for how long I was being a passenger, no pun intended, in the situation, and for threatening my husband with divorce. I don't think we did anything that wrong, but I'm willing to admit when we made some mistakes, and we have to make up for it somehow. Some comments say you and your husband need to get Atlanta to pay Casey back for damaging her car. What is she supposed to do? Magically come up with thousands of dollars to pay my oldest back? It's not a matter of not wanting to hold people accountable. It simply is not realistic. I also want to stay on record. I was very against Casey getting a car. That being her first, she never listened. Insurance would have likely paid for some of it if she would have just put her sister as an approved driver on the plan. It would not have been difficult, but no, it's not Elena's fault that she has ADHD. It's not like she wrecked on purpose. Casey saved up $155,000 and didn't pay the $300 per month to get insurance. Nope, sounds like Elena wrote this and doesn't know how insurance works. Elena, pay for the gas if you drive the car. She had insurance, but they really screwed us over because Casey didn't approve Elena as a driver on the plan. That was a big determining factor in us deciding to hold firm. If Elena would have been approved on the plan, we would have covered the remainder of what the insurance was offering, but this is the result of Casey's decision. Hence, I agreed with my husband that it's fully her responsibility. I just didn't expect her to sue us out of nowhere like this, and I especially didn't expect my parents to be enabling this behavior. What's in her best interest might suck now, but she'll learn from it in the future. My husband's been fuming for weeks over this, and a lot of you are saying he even made a post, but if they ruled not the idiot, then he wasn't telling the full story. Elena broke her arm and that wreck, and all Casey has cared about the past month is her car. That's the genesis behind the family therapy, and I'm very concerned that so many people are supporting her entitled behavior. Opie is blaming her parents for enabling Casey into suing Opie and her husband, and not absolving them of blame either. They're the ones enabling Casey in all of this. Are you forgetting that it's my mom and dad suing on her behalf? You're nuts if you think they won't be hearing from me. Results be damned. I've been getting angry telephone calls for a week over this storm. Somebody has to answer for that. Even her uncles are on her side in this, and the in-laws haven't said a word. I don't know what's happening on that side. What she and her husband do for Casey, we feed her, we clothe her, we were going to send her to college. She had a place to park the car because of us. And oh, by the way, my husband got under there and fixed a tie rod about a month after she got it, for all of you saying about how awful he is. He's not. He loves Casey. We both do. But I didn't see her putting that car up in the air to redo the brakes and fix the AC when she hit a deer. That was all her father. I figured that allowing her sister to also drive their car was a more than fair ask for all he did, and is a big reason why I supported him. I just hate that I apparently can't support him and love my daughters if that's the resolution you all want. Forget it. Casey is going to take this to court, and then when she loses, she's going to throw another fit. But that's better than dishing out $115,000 for a car we're not even going to drive. It's not lost on me that we owe her. We just don't owe her that much. She'll come around when she realizes how the world works. Update. It's been a few weeks since I last updated, and I want to start out by addressing a few things that opened my eyes a little bit in regards to this situation. The first thing being my husband's post, which came well before my own. He and I fought over that. I truthfully didn't love that he used real names. However, when I found out he posted for the sake of transparency, I used real names as well. But, with that being said, I went through with the difficult decision to serve him divorce papers to really abbreviate things. I went to therapy, as lots of you suggested, and I was assessed with a diagnosis for an excessive compulsive disorder in my second session. In my third session, we discussed the whole car situation, and my personal therapist explained it to me in a way that made it hard to not feel awful. The discussion we had covered quite a lot, but the common denominator in everything that's been going wrong has, in large part, been my husband. He's the reason Casey shared her car. He's the reason Elena got hurt driving on her own. And he's the reason we're set for court in barely a week and still don't have an attorney. As for me, I don't know what I've been doing, but it hasn't been being a mother, if I'm honest. One of you asked me straight up why I was being a passenger, and I just don't have a good answer. I let my parents know about the divorce, and they were a little concerned. But what I didn't expect was for Casey to reach out. The last time we talked, it was mostly her and my husband's butting heads. I really thought she was about to turn me on a spit, but I've never heard her cry like that, at least not since she was much younger. I make a little bit more than my husband, but finding an apartment was brutal, especially with Elena wanting to come with me. I don't think I was clear enough about how badly I want to pay Casey back before, but I do. Most of my money is in joint savings though, so there isn't much I can afford. But my husband wasn't going to back down. I won't lie, I was selfish. I begged Casey to drop my name from this suit. I told her I would pay what I could afford to right this second, which wasn't much in comparison. She told me that it wasn't so much the car or the value on its own that she wanted back. It was the security of having something of her own. She listed off probably dozens of instances where Elena got first pick over her, and it was very hard to refute. She told me that losing that much money sucked, which I fully understand. But the bigger loss to her was that her first big girl purchase, which a lot of friends and family were excited about, was now going to be remembered as a family-ending disaster. She told me that she knows I can't replace that. We agreed to breakfast next week in joint therapy, us two, and her only condition was that I don't try at any point to save him from the suit, which I agreed to. Elena came to me even before my last post, saying she only drove so far because my now ex-husband pressured her into picking up the grocery order early for something he wanted to make. This also changed my perspective. I was under the impression that she was doing her own thing, but even my husband owned up to that, which ground my gears. But I put it together. A legal driver in an expensive car, not insured and under pressure, Elena drove. However, I've come to realize that my ex-husband seems to have a tendency to like to pressure people. He's pressured me a lot too. He probably pressured Casey into letting Elena drive at all, which brings me back to her. We finished our talk with better terms. I owe her so much more than breakfast out, but I'm just beyond grateful she's even willing to look at me. I've seen a lot of bold assumptions that I hate Casey and that I vastly favor Elena. But I only feel the second part was ever accurate. I've never hated my own daughter. I was frustrated with her over something I've come to realize wasn't her fault. As of now, I'm just adjusting to a much quieter place and to my phone buzzing nonstop. I've only been moved out for 5 days, and Atlanta has seemed so much less anxious to me. It's odd because my place now isn't anywhere near what the house is, but I think last night was probably the first time I've slept 8 hours since high school. Today was productive, and for Casey, I'll admit it. I hope she wins. I hope she gets her car, and then some. As for the divorce, I don't want much material. I won't say no to it. I'd rather just have my share of joint savings and try to tackle my own issues, of which I guess I have more than I would have been willing to admit a month ago. I know I'm going to get pelted most likely, but I want you to know I'm thankful. The internet is mean, but it tells the truth. And however this turns out, it's largely your comments that helped me see what I was doing wrong and who was enabling those things. Most importantly, how I could stop it. It's times like this where my dad would tell me, I'm not lucky, I'm privileged. And I think that applies here. I'm privileged that my daughter didn't just laugh, even though she could and arguably should have. That's the update. I'll update whenever KK's and I meet, barring she's comfortable with it, and then you probably won't hear from me until the whole suit and divorce is over and done with. I just wanted Reddit to know I hear you all, and I wish I could have seen reason when I first posted. I'm frustrated reading my own comments. Therapy is a powerful thing. Some relevant comments. It's great that you seem to have changed your tune a bit, but this still screams of avoiding being held accountable. Your ex-husband may have been the driving force behind the fallout with Casey, but you were trying very hard to place blame on Casey in your initial posts and subsequent comments, and it's hard for me to believe you switch sides that easily. I hope that Casey gets the outcome she deserves from all of this, whether that's your ex-husband being taken to the cleaners or the both of you still. Yes, the idiot you allowed this all to happen. Your daughter bought the car, and it was okay to let the other daughter drive it and not have to pay for gas. Take some responsibility and realize you are a crap parent.